Okay, so in the last video I talked about how this video is really important to me and I want to get it right. And in order to do that, the best use of my time would be to articulate a vision, break up the components of what that vision are, and then begin to build and execute the components of that vision. So, I went to a coffee shop yesterday, I read that book a little bit, and I began to write things about this video, ideas that I had about this video, things that I could potentially use as a voiceover, but basically trying to organize my thoughts about this whole story in a way that I felt was inspirational or valuable or from my own unique perspective. I think that my scope was small, and you'll see that. I'm going to read both of these passages and to talk about the problems with them, about how they don't really fit in the larger frame of the thing. But anyway, so the reason why, so I'm going to read this, and it's going to have nothing to do with running a marathon, right? But here is my explanation for writing this. This talks about improv comedy. It talks about the experiences of performing improv comedy with a team of people on a stage where you have no plan and you have to go improvise a 30-minute performance for a crowd, right? And the crowd can either hate you or love you. And the reason why I wrote this was because before I ran the race, right, I talked about how the closest thing that I felt was parallel to the experience that I was going to experience that next day was the idea of improv, right? Because in improv, there's this idea of yes and, right? It's this idea that, somebody's going to go put themselves out there with some silly character or some silly choice, and you can either say yes to that or you can say no. And when you say yes to it, the possibilities are endless, right? And when you say no to it, the possibility, it crumbles them, right? It's a horrible thing to do to another person, because now suddenly everyone in the room, just watched you basically tell that person that they are less. Their ideas aren't good, right? And the whole room, there's a tendency there to think that that's funny the first time, right? But then, it destroys the team, right? So anyway, I felt that Morty saying that he could run a marathon, was him jumping off the cliff. I felt like everyone around him who was saying no, they were that person on stage who was saying, hey, fuck your idea, right? And it was destroying the team. So I said, okay, cool, let me run it with you, and let's do it together. And I felt like that was saying yes and to Morty, and it felt like we were building something bigger, right? That's an extremely complicated idea to articulate in the first couple of moments in a video, right? That is, if I front-loaded all of that bullshit onto a 5-minute video, people from my office would watch that and say, you're a fucking psycho. You just ran a race. Like none of the shit that you just talked about for 20 minutes has anything to do with you running the race. So anyway, I think that this is flawed. I think starting with this is flawed. I think there's value here. I don't think it should go at the beginning. I think I need to be very, very careful, because this is a lot about me and not about Morty. And I need to make this video about Morty. So, okay. Anyway, in the context of that, I will read this, and then I will read the second one, where I tried to, take those things into consideration, right? Cool. A sea of faces looks at you. Lights are shining in your eyes, so you can't see them, but you can feel them. Some bored, some predisposed to not like you before you even open your mouth. Some are excited and expectant. Beside you stands your family, your brothers and sisters waiting to march off into battle, to grab your hand and to jump off the cliff. There's no plan. The plan is to write the plan on the way. Jump off the cliff. Build the plane on the way down. Massive risk, but massive opportunity for reward. Someone is the first to jump. They step off from the familiarity and the comfort of the back line. They jump with everything they have. They leap. You have a choice. Do you follow them off the cliff? Wow. I didn't expect to cry for reading that. That's really dumb. But like that's that's what improv taught me. It's like, hey, like go out there, take a risk. The other people will support you. If you blindly trust them, like you can work together, man. Like it's awesome, right? So anyway, that doesn't make sense at the beginning of a video about running a marathon, right? It's extremely powerful to me, and I want to find a way to include it. Maybe not this exact thing, but elements of this, right? Throughout that video, strategically. Maybe during the portion of the video where, we're actually doing the running. Maybe that can take the place of some of this, lack of running footage. Okay, so I wrote that in this coffee shop, and I realized that what I just said, this doesn't fit. So another piece of the information from that book was, understand the structure that we were all taught in high school, or in middle school, and then break the structure on purpose and deliberately. And the structure that they talk about in that book is intro, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, body paragraph 3, conclusion, summary, right? With the idea of, have a thesis, have transition statements, and talk about, the strongest argument first, and have like a topic sentence for every paragraph, right? That's basically how you write a formulaic essay. I could write the formulaic essay of this video. Is that the best way to make this video? Maybe not. So I think what this was for me was I'm going to write the formulaic essay version of this video. So I'm going to read this now, and I think maybe I'm going to record another thing where I, hypothesize a plan and a vision for this final product. So, okay, cool. I recently took a new job, my first real job, with important work and a salary. Morty sits in the cube next to mine. He's a soft-spoken guy, but he's the type of person who you talk to and you know that there's a lot going on below the surface. Morty is soft-spoken. Morty is easy to underestimate. One day at my job, I hear Morty kind of bragging to the people around him. He says he can run a marathon with no training. The people around him laugh at him. I laugh at him. I ask him if he's serious. He says he is, and I think about how ridiculous that seems to me. This guy, who doesn't look like much, says that he can do this crazy feat of endurance, the strength and mental fortitude, the true determination and grit required to complete a 26-mile race. There's no possible way he could do that, ever. I know that, and the people around him know that as a fact. They challenge him on it. They poke a little fun at him. After all, it's a little ridiculous. But Morty doesn't budge. Morty doubles down. Morty is so adamant that he can do this, and everyone else is so adamant that he can't, that they set a date. One Saturday afternoon, 1/4 mile loop around a neighborhood, 26.2 mile race, one guy, and that's when it changed for me. This wasn't just an idea, this was going to happen. I'd seen that before. I'd done that before. Where other people saw a naive kid and a list of reasons why something wouldn't work, Morty saw something bigger. Morty took a risk. Morty had a vision, and he didn't back down when it was challenged. For every one person that is willing to take a risk, there are 1,000 ready to tell them not to. When you're presented with a situation like that, you have a choice. You pick a team. And then I was going to say, like, yes or no. Man, that one got to me too. Jesus Christ. Now that I read this, it's like, this could work. I'm going to listen to it back, and then maybe, incorporate some of these ideas into the medium of a video. Also, I want to make sure that the more I look at this, the more I realize that this is something that is deeply personal, and I need to have his permission before I share this with people.